We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become?
Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
Drink it in, man.
Deep left side carry on. Picks on the block. At the 5. At the 2. At the 1 to the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions.
Drink it in, man.
Get up, Stafford throws. It is end zone. Caught! Oh, baby, what a catch! Kenny Galladay, you're a freak! What a catch! Touchdown, Detroit Lions! Cornbread!
I love the Lions! Say it with me! I love the Lions!
Drink it in, man.
Detroit Koolaid, what's going on, everybody? It is Friday morning. We are up early after day one of the NFL draft, and we are recording. The Detroit Lions made their selection at number 3. We're going to talk all about that. We're going to have some questions. Me and Griffco go back and forth. We've got some reaches and some good picks that other teams made that we'll briefly discuss, and then we'll end the show with some round 2 and round 3 targets, some day 2 people to be aware of for the Detroit Lions. So it should be a great show, and you know it's a great show because on the other end here, I've got the one and only Griffka. Griffka, how are you, buddy?
Oh, man, a little tired. Staying up late watching that draft. It was a different experience how that worked out more than so than past years.
It's the exact same as other years. It just was virtual. The timing and everything was the exact same. I think you're just getting older, buddy.
I don't know. I kind of miss, all the families on the stages and, Goodell getting the big bear hug where, like, the guys are trying to squeeze the life out of him. And
Yeah, that's different. But my beef is you're staying up late. Nothing impacted that. You're just old and grumpy.
Yeah.
All right, we got so much to talk about, Griffka, and I think we'll tee up the first thing to talk about by playing this.
So that means we are at pick number 3. That's the Detroit Lions. There you see Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia.
With the 3rd pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Jeff Okudah, defensive back, Ohio State.
Griffka, I knew you were going to mail this in. I knew this would be your pick. I know it's been everybody's pick. I was pretty confident we were going to get some type of trade down based on all the rumor innuendo I was hearing across the board. We were not able to trade. I let out a big, oh no. I think when the pick is in, me and Hughes were on a live Zoom chatting back and forth, and I was just pissed that we couldn't get a trade done. But I do like the selection, based on who the Lions have had in free agency and what they've done. This is what I would have done also as a general manager. As much as I promoted Derek Brown on our last couple shows, as much as I've talked about a lot of other options and prospects, if I wasn't going to go quarterback, which I would have considered if it was me, I think Jeff Okudah is a great football player. He's a pro. He's great off the field, has so many good things working for him that I think it's a really good selection, even though I wanted the trade. What about you?
yeah, I would have liked to trade as well. I mean, I know we had talked about that, but I was happy with the Okudah pick. I can't believe the number of people that, reading afterwards like, oh, Lions blew it again, botched it again. We had talked about, Simmons, and we had both really, really liked that guy, and I thought he's the most versatile athlete that could, have the highest ceiling and, do the, play the most multiple positions for the team. But I mean, Okudah, they really needed that as well. The pass defense did need some help. We realized they got Trufant, signed a couple safeties, but I still believe they needed somebody opposite him. So I was happy with that pick.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the only thing that happens is people are a little disappointed because we get all this lead up of all these things that are going to happen, just like with free agency, and things rarely happen under the Bob Quinn regime. It's status quo. It's safe. It's, wait and see, hopefully it works type of thing. So I think that's only where that comes from. I didn't see too many people arguing with the player position, the quality of talent of this guy. But yeah, there's always some questions. I mean, you were hearing, we're going to get 9-20 from Jacksonville, or hey, the Raiders might, there really wasn't a ton of shakeups there in the beginning. So, I mean, the guy's got to come in and be a really good football player. None of this, cornerback is such a hard spot to learn, and give him a couple years. He's got to come in, and him, Trufant, Justin Coleman, and those back safeties really got to mold together pretty quickly to make this impactful on the field, and a good selection. But like I said, I like it. I know, talking with Hughes, he was worried about Derek Brown just being the pick at 3, and then he ended up, who would we take if we were the GM? Again, I took Okudah, you did as well. Hughes went with Isaiah Simmons, and Simmons, to me, is still a great player. I promoted him a ton on the show, but I don't know how you can really go that route based on the current roster. Hughes' thing is he's just too talented, and you'd be able to move him all over the field, and he can make plays. But, I mean, I had to back off that based on what they currently had done on their team, and looking at what Bob Quinn does sometimes. Like, you look at the corner board right now, I mean, it got picked clean. I mean, there was probably 3-4 corners that went in round 1 that I did not think would go. So if we would have passed on it, you'd be a lot thinner coming around here in round 2 than I would have thought originally.
Yeah, that's I kind of started thinking that too, with what they had done, all these positions with Simmons, and then ABC. I was watching the draft on ABC, and they showed that one screen of all the different positions that Simmons had played, last year. He was like, he lined up at, rush linebacker. He lined up at, safety. He lined up at cornerback. He did all that. But you look at that and people are like, oh, look at that. All these positions. But could you really see Simmons lining up at cornerback on really any play in the NFL? That's one of those things I'm just like, they're not going to line him up and do that. And so I was kind of like, I started to, see what you were saying, and I thought they were just going to like shy away from that completely. And, other people are like, well, obviously the Lions didn't take him. He's obviously, and he fell through. All these other teams are like, well, obviously he isn't the slam dunk that everybody says he is. It's just like, well, you can't say that because, obviously teams like the Chargers and the Dolphins, they really needed quarterbacks. And I have no idea what the New York Giants were thinking. But that's just because he fell a few spots doesn't mean he's not, he couldn't be a great player in the NFL.
Yeah. So basically, in short, the two first answers here, you pretty much agree. We've, like I say, lots to talk about. We'll get into these questions. I know we haven't run it down totally for the people, but it's kind of crazy. Me and Hughes are in year 4 now of our dynasty draft, where we started 4 years ago. We could take any player we wanted, started a team from scratch. Every time the Lions are picking, we get to select. And it's really fun to look at those teams. Hughes gives me some grief. He thinks his team is far ahead of mine because he has a couple really good studs, but I think I got some guys that are coming on. So my franchise or dynasty pick for the Lions, my Lions team was Tua Tagovailoa. So I was able to take the quarterback based on value and not knowing if we'll be picking 3rd again. So I was glad to get him under my belt. Hughes took Jeff Okudah for his franchise team. So really fun to see how those break out. We'll have to maybe break those down one of these times, or I'll have to do a bonus show and give the people 4 years worth of picks where you don't have to kind of jimmy it into what the Lions have. You can kind of do what you think is best at the time. And like say, you look back years later and you're like, wow, I thought that was a great pick and now it hasn't worked out the way you had hoped, or some that really come through. So pretty cool stuff. Grifka, I want to talk about Bob Quinn saying that there were absolutely no firm trade offers whatsoever. Like, this has been confirmed by Shefty, by all these different reporters. I called BS right away because Again, I'm just calling for somebody out there in Hollywood, somewhere. There's a documentary on everything else. There's never been an inside doc on the ins and outs of an NFL general manager, and I want to see it because you can't tell me from January, February, or at least if you want to move it up to like when the combine started. There ain't no damn way that from the combine until yesterday that you got no offers whatsoever. None. You had all these discussions. You're on the phone. You're at work. What do they say? 20 some hours a day. And you got no offers. What the hell are you talking about then? And why would you not tell the guy on the other end of the line, hey, I've talked to you about 8 times now. What's your offer? Because if you don't have an offer, there's nothing to talk about. I mean, am I wrong here, Grifka, or does this just seem ridiculous on every level?
Yeah, that's one of those, when you hear that, like you said, it just makes you wonder, what are you talking about? You're just checking what the weather is, what you're doing while you're quarantined. I mean, like, there's no firm offers. Well, what's a firm offer? I mean, it's just like, well, I'll give you this and this and this, and you give me this and this and this. Is that a firm offer? It's just like, well, what if I was to send you this, or what if you were going to do this? I mean, and yeah, what are you chatting about? I mean, I was very confused by that, and like they made it sound like they were just like, a 14-year-old girl waiting by the phone for the phone to ring, as like the captain of the football team is going to call her on Friday night. And like you see Bob Quinn just sitting there staring at his phone, ring, give me a trade offer. It just seemed very strange.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm not quite for sure. Ding.
Exactly.
What the heck this is, because I mean, anybody with common sense, we all play either fantasy football or you've all been in negotiation of some sort. You don't just randomly talk for months and months and then wait till the final day and say, oh, well, I had all these discussions, but I didn't get one offer. Like, I think it's just a cop-out, and it's sort of like a way to tell people that you didn't get an offer you liked, or you waited too long, or these other teams bailed on you at the last minute. I don't know. I happen to mention that on probably 3-4 podcasts. It's very frustrating because 2 people started hammering me on Twitter. Well, you don't have a dance partner. How are you supposed to dance? It's like you ask other people if they'd like to dance. You go out and dance yourself, and maybe people will join you. You lower your asking price of who you're asking to dance, and maybe somebody will. I don't know. There's lots of ways to get a dance partner, So don't act like, oh, you just got stood up at the prom. Like you probably were trying to go for the homecoming queen when you were a slug, Like I don't know what else to say other than like, let's lower this price and let's get some deals done, because this is ever since he's been here, he's never made a deal with a top selection. All he has done is move up in big rounds 2 and 3 and 4 or whatever. Like it's kind of inexcusable in my mind. But like I say, I'm not too beat up because I like Jeff Okudah. I think he's a great fit. He's a pro. He's going to come in and play. I think he's like at least a 6+ year quality football player for the team. He's at a position that gets paid crazy dough, so there's a lot to like about it. But I definitely call BS on this. I didn't get one trade offer in the last 5 months. Well, then you're doing something wrong, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, or like you think other GMs are going to be like, well, it's crap, I called you and you said no, or you didn't really want to talk. I mean, come on, nobody's going to do that. I mean, so yeah, you can throw that out there.
Right, but it also the other way, it wouldn't kill you just to be like, hey, we had some offers. I didn't think they were good enough, or they weren't really, it never got too serious. But to tell people you didn't get one, you throw the word firm in there, but basically reports where he got no offers whatsoever after everybody was saying all these discussions. That's what annoys me. Like there's at some point somebody said, hey, I'll give you this and this, and you just turned it down or didn't take it seriously. I guarantee it happened.
Yeah, I mean, so. I realize that happens where you just kind of throw up feelers and see where it's going, and it doesn't, it doesn't turn into like the final hard, like, okay, this is it. Let me know what you think. Give me 10 minutes. You got 10 minutes to let me know what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah,
that might not have happened, but to say like, nothing came through the pipe at all, I think is total garbage, considering unless those were all like fake, was it fake reports coming out? Lions looking to trade down to 5, may have this. Lions looking to move down. I mean, we read all that stuff. I mean, unless, Bob Quinn's just like, yeah, we're looking to move down. Oh, they're looking to move down. And it's like, whatever. So
yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things. Like, I just want to see how these talks go, because I could see everybody being real coy with people, but I also see them, getting to a point where one or the other is like, all right, like, are we doing a deal or not? If we're not, then we don't need to be talking every other day, instead of just, we had so much discussions and it came down to the wire and then I didn't get the offer and they got the guys they wanted. It's like, well, maybe you didn't play your deck right, or maybe you waited too long, or maybe you should have stepped up and been like, hey, Miami, what's the offer? Hey, Raiders, do you want Tua or not? Because the Dolphins are going to take him. So anyway, like I say, it is what it is. That's for another day. It didn't kill us, but we didn't maximize the value, in my opinion. That's sort of what Hughes was bummed about. He was pretty quiet. And I go, Hughes, we got a good football player at a position of need that's going to be really good for the city and part of this team. And he's like, I know, I just, we wanted that little sugar of the extra pick or the slight move down, which we didn't get. But you can't let that get in the way of getting a good player at 3. I mean, it's the first corner since 97, I believe was the stat I saw. It's the first in the top 3 there, whatever. So it's not something that's regularly done again, but he did kind of seem like a special type talent on and off the field. Grifka, I got this one for you. It kind of leads into what I was just saying. So, I heard a lot of talk this last week, like, the Lions need to do something outside the box. They do something sexy. They need to take a big swing, or they need to do something exciting for the fans. And I was thinking, like, me, you hear me on this show talk about outside the box things, or talk about like being aggressive and trying to do some different things in the draft. But just because it's outside the box or it's unique or it's aggressive or it's crazy doesn't make it good. So everybody bangs on Bob Quinn that he's been safe and he's done this and that. Like, safe and predictable to me is not a bad selection. And I think that's what you're going to hear from a lot of Lions fans today. Not a lot. I think it would be probably 65-35, hopefully like 70-30, 70 that are pretty much on board, 30 that are just that group that says because he didn't trade it, because he didn't take Tua or even a Simmons, it's a bad selection. When really it's safe, it was predictable, and it's also a good pick.
Yeah, it filled a major need on the team. So to say like, they should just look forward with Tua now, or they should, like you said, Simmons. I mean, I was all for Simmons. I mean, if they would have taken him there, I would have been, very happy with that pick. But there was a big hole right there at cornerback. And, as we've talked, with AO, we're both happy with him, and he kind of showed some stuff last year. But if Okuda's better than AO, I'm okay with that. That doesn't bug me at all. And, just to, like, go out there and make a splash, and then what? It doesn't work out if Tua, they named off his litany of injuries, his ankles and his hip. And, first people are like, his hip's fine. Hip injuries tend to come back. They're like lower back injuries. They just, something happens, they get twisted, funny, you get hit right, and it comes back. It's not just like, okay, you broke your forearm or something like that, and those can heal and those can happen. But we've seen it happen with other injuries before, where there's ones that nag and there's ones that hurt a little more after a while. And the hip is one of those joints where it happens. So just because somebody saw a video of him, throwing to some wide receiver 20 yards downfield and like, oh, great, look at him, he's awesome. Well, those things, one good hit could, just kind of bring it back. So I'm once again fine with the pick. I mean, everyone's like, Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert can throw the ball, can make all the plays. Why don't you get him? There's a debate on if he was even the second best quarterback in the draft. So
yeah, I'm not on board. I'm not on board with all your injury worries, because I think you're hearkening back to your boy Bo Jackson and these other people. Like, not many people have had a big hip injury, but it is 2020. Like, all these guys heal up. There's already been doctors say that goods do good till 35. My issue is the guys on 97.1 want to do it because it's a big swing and because it'll sell jerseys and it's bold and exciting. And it's like, if they do love Matt Stafford, which they basically told the world months ago, It doesn't, they're not going to do this crazy move just to shake up the city or something. So you got to start to get off that, as well as like, hey, just because a corner is usually not taken high doesn't mean you look past a guy who seems to have everything you look for in a player. And the thing I want you to get your head around, Grifka, is like, we have all these arguments about roster building and, hey, let's get him because he's good versus, hey, I want him because he's cheap. Like, one thing Bob Quinn has done a great job of is sort of taking the last couple years at least, he's flipped assets before they just run out on him. I mean, we got a good, 6-7+ years out of Darius Slay, flipped him. Somebody else paid him a ton of money. We brought in a 21-year-old corner from a Big Ten powerhouse that can run, he can cover, he can hit, he'll tackle. I mean, to me, that's a nice flip of an older used car into a nice shiny new one. You know what I mean? And Okuda's here for at least 4 to 5 years, maybe making $4 million a year. Your boy Slay, who you were just willing to pay whatever it took because you shook his hand, they're paying him $17 million for the next 3 to 4 years. I mean, I will take that flip almost any day of the week because I don't think their play is going to be light years apart.
I have a quick question for you.
Yep.
Will you ever pay a proven asset?
Of course.
No, really.
Of course.
Because everyone we always talk about, you're always more than willing to let them walk because you don't want to pay them whenever.
Right.
Because you'll just go find somebody cheaper and hopefully it's better. It just sounds like you never want to pay a proven asset. So it's like, yeah, he's good. I'm not saying, give a guy a crap ton of money when he's 35. That's not what I'm saying at all. But
but you just have a lot.
Like, let them walk to bring in cheaper, younger guys. Somebody who still has to prove something.
Yeah,
it's not a knock. If that's what you believe, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
No, I'm fighting you on it because you're putting me in a box when like you don't have any good examples of like a mid 20-year-old that's a absolute ball player that we let walk that I was like happy with. You use all these examples. Wow, you were happy with Golden Tate. Let's look at Golden Tate, Grifka. He was right at the end of his deal. He was past where most people are good. He hasn't been that good since he left Detroit. So, yes, I was willing to let him walk. We let Slade, same difference. Like, did you hear me barking up trees saying don't pay Trey Flowers? No, you didn't, because he's 26 years old. He's at a premier position. He's, in that prime that you will pay a player. Same with, when they paid Matt Stafford. You don't hear me clamoring because that's what quarterbacks go for. Yeah, keep the quarterback around. Pay him whatever the market is. I just don't go with your route, which is like, well, I kind of like him and he's been good, but I'm going to ignore the age. I'm going to ignore the attitude. I'm going to ignore the production.
That's not what I'm saying at all. But
you wanted to pay everybody.
More so than not that you would be more than willing to let, good players walk, proven talents walk for younger, unproved, hungry guys, as you say. Right. So.
And what's bitten me? Like my argument against you is you wanted to pay everyone. You would have brought in Antonio Brown for $15 million. You would have kept Slade for 17. You wanted to give Golden Tate 12, or on a 3-4 year deal. I mean, nobody that I've said, hey, good, he's gone, we'll get a younger guy, has went and balled out and killed us. What's your best example? Like, Diggs had a couple good games in Seattle. I mean. I don't know what you would use as an example to say, wow, Oakley let this guy walk for cheap, and it totally backfired.
Well, who's Diggs' replacement been? That's been the splash guy that's made all these plays. I mean, they went and brought in more safeties this year, and because either they're not happy with Will Harris or Tracy Walker, but they let them guys thinking it's like, oh, we've talked about it. Oh, they're going to let Harris and Walker play, but no, they went and signed 2 more safeties this year, and it doesn't sound like either.
Yeah.
Okay. No, we're getting off topic here.
We played like 8 games without Diggs. He didn't do much. He wouldn't have won us games. We plugged in a young guy, got some snaps, and then we upgraded the position in general by trading for a productive player for a 5th rounder. Like instead of paying Diggs $8 million, I think that's good business. So anyway, I think that nobody gives credit for flipping the assets, and they haven't really been bad moves, but also the players that are in there haven't totally shown out, but they also haven't.
You're not going to get the slack because nothing's come to it on the field yet. That's, I guess, what you would have to say on that. So people are going to complain about it simply because, where the team is at right now. So you can say you flipped them for better stuff and draft picks, but nothing's really come to fruition on the field. So you're right. A lot of people are going to complain about it until they see some of those, all this, the draft picks and all these guys that you brought in instead, you see that stuff pay off.
It's apples to oranges, man. Like when we had the guys that we had veteran type teams under different regime and we won 9 games. We still didn't win anything. Now that we've sent those guys away, like you can always point to W's, but you also have to use your eyes and see if we don't get rid of Golden Tate, we don't have Tracy Walker. Would you rather have Golden Tate with 1 or 2 years left on his career right now or a young up and coming Tracy Walker?
Well, one's a safety on the defense, so I guess I would take the defense because the defense can't stop anybody. But Tracy Walker was on the defense last year, and they didn't stop anybody. So,
all right. Well, we could go on for days, but let's see what else I got here for you. Like I said, I already kind of hit on Okudah. He's everything I put on Twitter. He's a fills a need pro. Just seems like a great guy from top to bottom, character-wise. You got anything else on this pick? How it went down, like just general, or I mean, it definitely sounds on you're on board. But like I say, it wasn't too hard of a night for the Detroit Lions. They picked at 3. They picked the player everybody thought they would pick. We didn't do anything else. The rest of the draft, which we'll get to after the break, was somewhat interesting. And I think rounds 2, 3, 4, 5 is where we're really going to know if this was a good draft or if, we have some negatives after Okudah, which was pretty much a easy slam dunk there in the top 3.
No, like you said, it seemed pretty easy. The only thing I was kind of waiting for to see if they might slip up and trade up to get back in the back end of the first round to see if there was somebody there. But it looks like what their needs are remaining. A lot of those guys slipped where they wouldn't have to do that. So, like you said, we'll talk about that after the break.
Yeah, there's so many good players left. It's crazy. So we'll take a quick break, get our sponsor in here. We'll come back, talk about moving forward and what we saw in day 1, and then get ready to take in day 2 of the NFL draft. We'll be right back.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become? Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
Everybody, we're back from the break, and Grifsky, I got to hit you with my hits and misses here. I wrote down some names, took a quick glance at the board. Let's see if I can read my own writing here. So for my misses in round 1 for other teams than the Detroit Lions, I had number 4, Andrew Thomas. I thought that was a big surprise. I got Henderson all the way up at number 9. I thought that was too high, even though the pundits put in there. I've got Henry Ruggs being the first receiver off the board at 12. I mean, I know everybody wants the next Tyreek Hill and loves speed, but I wasn't on board with that. A.J. Terrell, I like the player. I would have loved him at 35, not 16. Arnett, a guy I talked about in the early 3rd round, went 19 overall. I mean, that was a shocker. We've got Rieger, the wide receiver, went 21, I believe, overall to the Eagles. I mean, he was one of my least favorite receivers, to be honest, personally. Brooks, the big linebacker. I mean, this was a 2nd, 3rd round guy as well. Went 27 overall to the Seahawks. I mean, get the Grifka soundbite out. I mean, geez, are you kidding me?
What the hell are you doing?
And then we got my guy Igbenogany, the Grifka's one of his favorite names in the draft. I mean, again, a 2nd, mid-2nd, maybe even 3rd round type corner with upside. Goes 30 overall. I mean, gosh, all those shocked me. They're based on value, player, position, team, whatever it is. But like at least 80, 90% of those, I'm super happy because all it does is push more players down to the Lions. You got any big misses or big issues before we get to some of the good picks I saw?
I'm going to agree with you. the names that you said. I mean, I was just kind of the same thing when they went back. I was chatting with a few other people, just text back and forth. And when picks were made, it would be like, hey, great pick, like with a smile or something like that, simply because we were just confused that happened. I guess the biggest one, the number one on my list was Damon Arnett right there. And I'm just like, well, there's a third round guy you took in the first round, but it's for as much praise as
good old Raiders.
Yeah, as much praise as the Raiders got last year on their draft. Farrell, where they took him, he wasn't that great, but all the rest of their picks panned out. So I don't know about this one. This could be another one of those things where they, took a big swing where people, we're the smartest man in the room. And this one, he could be a decent pro. We talked about that, but this is third, late second, third round talent, and you took him midway in the first round. So
here's my thing too with the draft. Like Arnett could come in the NFL and be a plus corner. He could even be in the words of Grifka, good. But like, even if he's good, it doesn't matter. Like the draft is all about value, where you get people. I mean, every time somebody's picked, you hear, oh, I heard late in the process he was climbing. Really? He was climbing into round one? Because there were lots of other players I would have taken in front of him that went after him in round one or will go in round two at the same position. So, I mean, it's crazy how these teams value the board, but sometimes it doesn't matter if a guy comes in and plays well if you way overdraft him. I mean, I know I told you before, like, hey, if Hawkinson just wins games and puts up decent numbers, I don't care. But, I mean, there are, like, lots of spots where guys try to justify, well, this guy's a pretty good player. Well, you took him 2 rounds early. Like, you never know if you would just hold your water and wait what you could have got or where you could have got that player because you just fell in love with them or whatever. So, Grifka, before I get to...
You see all those other players that are drafted in between that are good as well. And it's like, well, you could have that guy too. And you could have that guy, and you still would have got that guy at your position in round 3 or round 4, something like that. So,
and my thing is
adding pieces.
Yeah. And even if you miss, like, again, all these people, well, I might miss out on the guy. Well, then you go take the next corner that fits your scheme or that you like. It's not the end of the world. So, anyway, before we get to my good picks, I thought I'd give you, I don't know, probably, I'll give you like maybe a minute if you want to brag about winning the Predict the Pick contest. I mean, you can go ahead.
I won that thing as my picks were going on. I'm like, wow, man, I must be doing terrible. And I kind of stopped looking at it.
Yeah, I didn't keep a ton of eyes on it, but Hughes halfway through goes, he was so pissed because you were winning, and I looked at it at the end, and you won. You beat me by like 300 points, yeah, it was just
because
you dominated.
When, like you said, when some of these surprises started to come up, and I'm like, wow, I'm way off. Like, I never would have thought the Packers were going to take Jordan Love. I mean, that one right there to me is just like the biggest. That, besides Damon Arnett, that one was probably the second biggest head scratcher to me, because what Aaron Rodgers whined about under McCarthy and kind of last
Hold
year.
on,
like
we'll talk about Jordan. I got Jordan Love in a whole bucket by himself, so you can do your Aaron Rodgers gimmick. But so everybody out there listening, Grifka won the Predict the Pick contest, but you know why he did? Because it's Grifka. He went chalk in the beginning. He got like the first 5 or 6 picks close. After that, nothing really to show for it. But classic, I should have known Grifka would go chalk and win something like that, where I had a whole bunch of crazy picks, went and changed it, based on what I had said the day before on the show. But I did not finish last. I did beat the Big Hughes by a couple points, and then a few other people that we had in there crushed me as well. So I did not fare so well in the random Predict the Pick. Grifka won. I'm sure he'll hold it over my head for the next 5 years or so.
No, I'll forget about it come our Wednesday show.
All right. Well, here's my good picks, Grifka. I love the pick of Tua at 5. You're not high on him. I think the guy's an absolute winner. I think he'll be more than healthy in the league. I think he's going to make, Drew Brees-like throws, lead his team, be a great character player for years to come. Excuse me. I've got Jedrick Wills, number 10 overall, was one of my favorite tackles. They already have a right tackle. They got Conklin, but they'll put him over the left side. He's got crazy good feet. He'll be awesome. And Grifka, I don't know if you know this, but he's going to be blocking for a guy. His name's Baker Mayfield. Just curious. I mean, do you got any takes you'd like to give the people on Baker Mayfield, or?
You can just play the drop if you want.
Okay, I could do that.
I'm like, that's Baker Mayfield right there. Baker. Yeah. I just want to let you know. He sucks, okay? Yeah, there you go. Mark it down.
Yeah, mark it down, Grifka. Now he's got 2 tackles and offensive weapons. Look out for Baker.
He still couldn't hit the broadside of the globe, so who cares?
He's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the game, except for last year. Anyway.
Except for last year.
Yeah, he was just.
He had all those talented wide receivers. Okay. No
he won a Heisman. I don't know if you noticed that. Anyway, we don't want to get in that argument.
Heisman's a stat thing. So Gino Torretta. That's right. Gino Torretta played for the Lions at one point as well, too. So did Andre Ware. He had a bunch of stats.
Grifka, go back and look at Baker's completion percentage. He's one of the most accurate of all time. So
Are you talking college?
you just make up stuff, I swear, about players. You don't have no idea.
Are you talking college?
What does he have?
Okay.
He has 2 years in the league. He was good his first year. He sucked last year, and he was good for 3 years in college. So, I mean, I don't think it's been proven that he can't hit the broad side of the barn. You just make this stuff up, I swear.
Okay. Yeah, he was so good in college that he continued to transfer from school to school until he wound up in a program that just chucks the ball around and plays at the top team in the conference against a bunch of other crappy teams, and he threw up a whole bunch of stats, and all of a sudden this guy's just going to be a stud in the pros. Okay, no problem. But, yeah, amazing. Yeah, really hard. I could pass for 300 yards against the University of Kansas. Yeah, amazing that Baker.
No, you couldn't. Just like the guy on Twitter, Brian Ives or whatever, said that Grifka could throw it better than so-and-so. I was like, no, he can't. I've seen Grifka throw the knuckleball out of the tailgater, too.
Yeah, like I said, I could still pass for 300 yards on Kansas and, like, the no defenses at, Texas or K-State or give me a break.
No, you can't. Okay. Anyway, I shouldn't even brought it up. The next good pick I had here was CeeDee Lamb with the Cowboys. I thought that was my wow pick of the draft, and oh my goodness, what a value, what a player. Like, look out for that offense. Chase on for LSU at 20, I thought was good value. Patrick Queen at 28, perfect player for the Baltimore Ravens. Clyde Edwards-Helaire going at 32. I mean, the guy's going to be an absolute monster for the Kansas City Chiefs. And like I said, I've got this player that went to Green Bay that I want to get to in a second. Do you have any picks, Grifka, that just jumped out at you as great selections that were non-Lions maybe? Or do you want to just agree with mine again?
No, I don't want to agree with them. Not all of them. I mean, there's a lot of good ones, but
what about Baker Mayfield?
And Brandon Ayuk, I really like that pick. I think he's going to be a good wide receiver. I'm surprised that the Saints took Cesar Ruiz. Sorry, I can't roll the R like you can. But I think he's going to be a really good player down there for New Orleans as well, so I like that pick. I agree with your Chase on one right there. And, 49ers once again taking Javon Kinlaw. That's another one another pick I thought fit really, really well.
Good stuff. Now, the one I put in a separate bucket, Jordan Love, one of my favorite players in the draft, a guy that I thought was basically the third quarterback off the board, a guy that you've been quoted as saying might be the best quarterback when it's all said and done in this draft, which I thought was one of the most half crazy yet bold takes you've ever had on the show. He goes at number 26, traded up for by your beloved Green Bay Packers, Grifka. Like, this made me laugh. This made me happy. This made me a little bit worried because if Jordan Love's as good as we think he might be, we might have to deal with another long stint of these cheddarheads having a quarterback. But just the fact that it made smug-ass Aaron Rodgers griddle up his teeth and probably break his coffee table made me happy.
Yeah, I can just imagine him like you said, breaking the glass in his coffee table when that pick went down because they know they didn't call Aaron Rodgers. Hey, Aaron, who do you think we should take? It's almost they're starting to show him the door. So I was pretty happy about that. It just like you said, makes me worry for years to come because like stated, I think he could be the best quarterback in this draft, and he's if he's going to be another thorn in the side of the Lions, I'm not going to like that.
Basically what I said. I don't know. Like, I don't even know what the plan is. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is going to be pissed. I wouldn't even be surprised if he wants to be traded or something. If he's not traded, he's got 4 years left on his deal. So I don't understand how the transition plan works. I loved it because to me, it did not help the Packers whatsoever in the near future. Now, smug Packer fan will tell you that they already are heads and shoulders above everybody, so they could take a pick like this. I think it was a mistake. There are lots of good players on the board that could have added to their team right now. I mean, and the final point is just, I wrote some friends right away. I said, this is not a Green Bay guy. Like, I don't know if it was you or Logan or some people I talked about that with, saying, like, there's certain players that go to certain spots and they make sense. And then there's people that go to spots and you're like, yeah, that guy's not a Packer. That guy's not a Miami guy. That guy's not an LA guy. That guy's not, some of these spots where you just can't put certain people. And Jordan Love falls directly in that category, as The Rock used to say, in Green Bay. Like, I don't see him in the tundra whatsoever.
Just out of curiosity, why? I mean, I heard that, but because we didn't talk about that before, but he seems very blue collar. He seems very let's say, I guess, mild mannered. He doesn't have that cocky arrogance, that some quarterbacks have, I guess. So Green Bay being in that Midwestern, they always want to tout how they're like very blue collar. We work hard, blah blah blah. So I guess I missed your point a little bit on that.
Yeah, I mean, if you have Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, is Jordan Love hanging out with those guys and just palling around with them? Like, it's what doesn't feel like the others. Like, Jordan Love doesn't feel like he fits those guys. We went to Green Bay. I mean, do you see him chumming around with the cheeseheads, hanging out in downtown, grabbing a cold one with the people, or being part of their crew? I sure don't. He seems like a guy I'd have in San Diego, or the Los Angeles Rams or Chargers or Vegas Raiders, or a team like that was warm weather, throw it around, deal with his inconsistencies. Green Bay is like that titled town, old school football, small town feel. It just seems odd to me, but I don't know. I guess you don't buy in, but that was the first thing I thought of. I was like, that's probably the last place I would have liked the guy to go, not only because of the situation, but because of who he is and the vibe he gives off to me. Just seems like a West Coast or a Florida, or even like a New York big market guy, not a small town Green Bay green and gold guy.
Green and gold, I like that.
But we'll see. I mean, it bums me out a little bit on some levels because, like I said, I want to root for him, and now it's just like, I hope he never plays, and I just don't understand why they did that now. I could see it if the smug a-hole had like a year or two left, or if he was a couple years older, but it just seems like didn't make much sense. But like I said, made me happy, and we'll see what happens. Grifko, we got to get to our pick. Everybody's been waiting. Who the heck are we going to take in these next rounds? That's what they want to hear. As riveting as our arguments about Baker and Jordan Love and other things have been, I got to kick this to you personally, because this is where I think you totally run out of steam in rounds 2 through 4. And I know if I give you my targets, which you probably already saw either on Twitter or our Slack chat, you'll just repeat them and call them yours. So I'm curious. We are only 3 picks away from the Lions selecting the second round. I think I know who you're going to say, but we got to have some targets in these rounds, and I don't want you skating out to the old functions in the later rounds because your 3x5 card's empty.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. So like, what picks are you looking for here? I guess. Are you just looking for like what I would do at the top of round 2 and 3, and rounds 2 and 3, since that's Thursday? Or are you looking for like the rest of the draft? Are you looking for guys that I'd be targeting, or? Yeah,
I just want targets for 35, and then how are you going to combo meal that plus Okudah plus somebody maybe that would be there in the third round to get people excited?
Okay, I gotcha. I'm still looking at defense. for the second pick. What first thing I just want to say is, like, it's kind of amazing how, like, running back has seemed to become the most disposable, position on the football field all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like, I remember as a kid, everybody wanted running backs. Even, like, into my 20s, people were still looking for running backs, but it seems like everybody just lets those things drop no matter what. So there's still a lot of good running backs on the board, but still, I think this team needs defense. So the guy you've been talking about, Epineza, I really like him. I think he's going to make it to the Lions at this spot, because Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and then Detroit, I believe, is how it falls at the top of the second. So,
yep.
I like AJ Epineza right there. In the third round, I'm still going to go with they need offensive line help, and I'm going to tout him, because he's from Michigan. You can bust me on it, but I still like Ben Bradenson there.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I'll definitely bust you on it, because I think Detroit fans fall in love with just no matter what, or they're out of options, so they're just like, get an offensive lineman. That'll fix everything. Grifka,
I'm need offensive line. It is a need.
But it's not really. They paid a tackle $10 million. They got 7 guards for 2 spots. Like, figure it out, Bob Quinn.
They all suck. I mean, give me a break.
Well, let me give the people some more options, Grifka, because I think you're probably tapped out there. So I'm looking at my round 1, and my secondary board here, and I had 24 names out of the 32, I think, that came off this board, Grifka, and I got about, there's got to be 40 plus names on here that I still like. But when you're narrowing them down to like immediate targets, I mean, if they want to go edge, you got Epineza, you got Yetur Gross-Matos, you got Zach Bond. If they want to go running back, which, again, you did a mock a couple days ago and you ran the card up to the podium for Jonathan Taylor, but now you didn't mention him for some reason. I mean, you got Taylor and Swift. Hey, you got Taylor and Swift. Still available. I mean, what are the chances? You go ahead and take her or them, and I wouldn't be opposed to either of those, to be honest. I mean, I think it's more prudent to wait, but those are obviously great players. You continue looking just at other spots on my board, like when they get into that third type round, if they still want to add defense or rush guys, if they pass on it maybe for a running back. You're looking at Curtis Weaver out of Boise State, Josh Uche. Uche may be gone in the second round. I even saw some people saying take him at 35, but I mean, that's a little rich for me, but see what happens. You can wait it out probably on a Bradley and I mean, gosh, I'm looking over my board. Grifko, like, you want to go interior defensive line, Ross Blacklock, Neville Gallimore. You can wait on Leaky Foe, one of our name favorites at least. I mean, some people are calling for Denzel Mims. I think you should wait on receiver as well. Like, I've got, third round possible offense is DPJ, Akers, Zach Moss running back. Gosh, there's just so many options. And, like...
So who would you take? You just named off, like you said, like 40 guys, but I gave you 2 guys that I would take. Who would you take? I mean, you just named off 40 guys that you'd be happy with if they got at those positions. Okay, so who would you take?
Yeah, I'm trying to give the people options, Grifka, rather than just, the 2 names that you saw online or whatever. Like, if I got to pick between those 2, I mean, it's a hard call for me. Like, I think, I hate it how you kind of copy me when we get close to the draft, but I think, if
I'm just supposed to go pull these guys that are going to get undrafted, and in the second round I would take some defensive back from Northern Michigan. I mean, come on, there's no really copying here per se. I mean,
we'll see in the later rounds. I want to see what you come up with.
I'm going to think out of the box here, and I'm going to take Brandon Mann in the second round. Like,
no, but they're all the guys I always mentioned on all of our shows when you sat back with your feet up, and now you're calling them out.
Yeah, you mentioned the same guys.
Yeah, because they're the good players that now you're piggybacking. But I mean, yeah, I'm gonna take.
So I'm gonna piggyback the guys. So like everybody else that does the same thing, just like I'm sure if Logan or Eric Schlitz said, "Well, dude, you're just piggybacking me." Come on, Logan. Come on, Eric. What are you doing? You're just piggybacking me. I mentioned those guys.
Oh my gosh, Grifka. No, I just do it to you because I know that you just sit back. Hey, Oakley, who's your good players you like? And you take mental notes. And then when I ask you, hey, Grifka, who would you take? You just kind of regurgitate the guys I mentioned and the same reasons why. But I mean, it is what it is. I'm onto your game. I mean, Epineza is probably the pick at 35 just because he's a first round talent. He's a position of need. He's a big, nasty beast. I went back and watched him like 2 days ago. He gets after the quarterback. He gets stripped fumbles. He punishes you when he hits you. I mean, all those things I like. Just a little worried about his athleticism. He's a bigger end than Gross Matos, so I like that too. My guy Marlon Davidson, I mean, if they love Derek Brown, I don't know why they wouldn't like Marlon Davidson at 35. He's more of an edge interior guy and more athletic, so that could be an option. And then in the third round, I mean, if I get an end like I'm saying I would here, then in the third round I'm turning to the offensive side of the ball and I'm looking to get, if you're gonna make me pick one, I'm probably. It all depends who's there, but I mean I'd probably turn to receiver because there's more longevity, but I'd also be apt to go for like Cam Akers if he's on the board. Zach Moss, if he's there, I'd probably try to wait it out a little bit longer, but I don't know that he'll make it to round 4. So that'd be my combo meals. I'd get Okudah, Epineza, and either DPJ or Cam Akers.
Okay.
So I think it's going to be hard to, or you could flip it, give me Okudah, DeAndre Swift, and then since I'm passed on the end, you can go get Curtis Weaver in round 3. I'd love that combo meal too. Sign me up for a supersize of that because that'd be sweet. So lots of ways to go. I mean, this is my whole thing is that everybody acts like after 17 or 13 or whatever number they make up, there's no good players. And I got 50 people on my board that I feel fit the team and that could fill needs. So just work the board, Bob Quinn, and get it done. Grifko, we went like a hour because
that you'll never get.
Yeah, we went almost an hour here. You're arguing with me about dumb crap, and we're carrying on about nothing. We just were supposed to pop on, do a quick show, and tell the people we'll be back later this weekend to talk more because we got 6 freaking rounds left. You can't be arguing with me about everything. I mean, geez.
Well, it is Friday morning.
So, but like I said, I'm excited about the Okudah pick. There are obviously other ways you could go. I would like to trade down. Also, the top of the second round is usually a big time for trades. So people think, oh, dang, we didn't trade. We just sat and picked. Like, it would not be mad in the least if they traded out a 35, went back a ways, got an extra pick, or if we obviously named off a lot of good players that are there. So, Bob Quinn, just take some of these names that we mentioned. Don't pull some rabbit out of your hat. Keep filling needs, and hopefully everything will come together when we get to play football again. So, lots we covered, lots of back and forth. Grifka, you got anything else for the people?
Nope.
Another great Detroit Koolaid Cast. Thank you guys for listening. Recording a little bit different setup today. Want to be able to move around and look at the boards. Want to give Grifka some of my names to watch. He did what he does. You people are on to him just like I am. But another fun Koolaid Cast. We'll see what they do here. Day 2 is actually my favorite day, probably of the draft. Rounds 2 and 3 is where you make your money. That's where the contracts are cheap. The talent is good. And you can really make some hay. So we'll see what the Detroit Lions do. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back talking more Lions and more NFL draft over the weekend into next week. Thank you so much. Take care. We're out.